Billionaire hid camera in paralyzed son's room, saw Maid's daughter pour into his mouth, called 911. The first time Daniel Hayes watched the footage, he thought he was witnessing a crime. The camera angle was fixed, high in the corner of the room, hidden inside a smoke detector. It captured everything: the pale blue walls, the silent monitors blinking beside the bed, and his son, Liam, lying motionless beneath a neatly tucked blanket. And then, her, a small girl, no older than 10, stepping quietly into the room. Daniel leaned forward, his breath tightening. He hadn't authorized anyone except trained caregivers to enter Liam's room alone. The girl looked around cautiously, as if she knew she wasn't supposed to be there. "Who is that?" he muttered. The timestamp flickered. 2:14 p.m. The girl approached Liam slowly, clutching something in her hands, a small cup. Daniel's jaw clenched. What happened next made his heart slam against his ribs. She leaned over his son, and poured something into his mouth. Daniel shot up from his chair. No, no, no. His hand trembled as he grabbed his phone. His mind raced through the worst possibilities. Poisoning, negligence, something unthinkable happening under his own roof. He dialed emergency services with shaking fingers. "This is Daniel Hayes. I think someone is harming my son. I need police and an ambulance immediately." 3 months earlier, Daniel Hayes had made a decision that changed everything. After Liam's accident, the world stopped making sense. One moment, his son had been laughing, running down the driveway with a football tucked under his arm. The next, a screech of tires, a blur of chaos, and then silence that never quite ended. The doctors used words like severe spinal trauma and unlikely recovery. Liam didn't move, didn't speak, didn't respond, but Daniel refused to believe his son was gone, not completely. He poured money into treatments, therapies, specialists from around the world. His mansion turned into a quiet medical facility, filled with machines that beeped and nurses who whispered. Still, nothing changed. And then came the doubt. Late at night, when the house was too quiet, Daniel would sit in Liam's room and wonder. Was someone neglecting him when he wasn't watching? Were they missing something? Doing something wrong? That paranoia led him to install the cameras. He didn't tell anyone, not even the head nurse. He just needed to know. The sirens arrived faster than expected. Daniel stood at the front door, pacing like a man on the edge of collapse. When the paramedics and police rushed inside, he led them straight to Liam's room. "She's in there." She gave him something. But when they burst into the room, it was empty. The girl was gone. Liam lay exactly as before, still and silent. The nurse on duty, a middle-aged woman named Clara, looked startled. "Mr. Hayes, what's happening?" Daniel pointed wildly. "Where is she?" "The girl. She was just here." Clara blinked. "What girl?" "The maid's daughter. I saw her on camera." Clara's face paled. "Oh, you mean Sophia." "Sophia," Daniel repeated, anger rising. "You let a child wander into my son's room." "She doesn't wander," Clara said quickly. She only comes when her mother is working late. She's quiet. She doesn't disturb anything." She poured something into his mouth. Daniel snapped. The room fell silent. The paramedics moved to check Liam, running tests, monitoring vitals. One of them frowned slightly. "His vitals are stable," he said. "No immediate signs of distress." Daniel shook his head. "That's not possible. I saw it." She gave him something. Clara hesitated, then spoke softly. "Sir, Sophia has been coming here for weeks." Daniel froze. "What? She sits with him, talks to him sometimes. I thought you knew." "I didn't authorize that," he barked. "I understand," Clara said, her voice steady but gentle. "But she's never harmed him." In fact what?" Daniel demanded. Clara glanced at Liam. For the first time, his heart rate responds when she's around. Daniel didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in his study, replaying the footage over and over again. At first, all he saw was what terrified him, a child doing something she shouldn't. But then, he started noticing the details. The way Sophia entered the room, not sneaky, but careful, respectful. The way she spoke to Liam, even though he couldn't respond. "Hi, Liam," she said softly in one clip. It's me again. She pulled a chair close to his bed and sat down, swinging her legs nervously. I brought you something today. It's just juice. I asked my mom first. Daniel paused the video. Juice. He pressed play again. Sophia dipped a small sponge into the cup, then gently touched it to Liam's lips. Not pouring, not forcing, just moistening his mouth. Daniel's breath caught. She repeated the motion carefully, as if she'd done it before. I read that sometimes people can feel thirsty, she whispered. Even if they can't say it. Daniel leaned back in his chair, stunned. She wasn't hurting him. She was helping him. The next clip hit even harder. Sophia held Liam's hand. I know you can hear me, she said quietly. If you can squeeze my hand. Just a little. Daniel's chest tightened. Of course, there was no movement. But Sophia didn't seem disappointed. That's okay, she said with a small smile. I'll keep talking until you can. The following morning, Daniel called for Sophia's mother. Maria stood nervously in the living room, her hands clasped tightly. I'm so sorry, sir, she said immediately. I told her not to bother anyone. She likes helping people. Where is she? Daniel asked. Maria hesitated. She's in the garden. Daniel nodded once. Bring her. A few minutes later, Sophia stepped into the room. She looked even smaller in person, thin, with dark eyes full of worry. She clutched the hem of her dress, glancing between her mother and Daniel. Did I do something wrong? She asked quietly. Daniel stared at her. This was the girl he'd nearly had arrested. The girl he thought was harming his son. You went into Liam's room, he said, his voice controlled. Sophia nodded slowly. Why? She hesitated, then answered honestly. He looked lonely. The words hit harder than any accusation. Daniel swallowed. And the juice. I didn't pour it, she said quickly. I just used a sponge. My mom showed me how to help my grandma when she was sick. Maria looked surprised. You never told me that. Sophia shrugged slightly. I thought it was okay. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. All this time, he had been surrounded by professionals, machines, experts. And the only person who treated Liam like he was still human was a child. Days passed. Daniel didn't remove the cameras. But he stopped watching them out of fear. Instead, he watched with something else. Hope. He saw Sophia come every afternoon, sitting beside Liam, telling him stories about her school, her favorite cartoons, even her dreams. I want to be a doctor, she said one day. So I can fix people like you. Daniel smiled faintly at the screen. Then one afternoon, something changed. Sophia held Liam's hand again. If you can hear me, just try, she whispered. And for a split second, Daniel thought he saw it. A twitch, so small it could have been nothing. But Sophia gasped. I felt that, she said, eyes wide. Daniel leaned forward, his heart pounding. Do it again, she encouraged. Gently, please. Nothing happened, but the moment lingered. That night, Daniel called the doctors. They ran new tests, and for the first time in months, there was a response. Minimal, faint, but real. The house began to feel different after that. Lighter, warmer. Daniel found himself spending more time in Liam's room, not just sitting in silence, but talking. I don't know if you can hear me, he said one evening, his voice unsteady. But I should have been here more. Sophia sat quietly nearby, listening. You don't have to say anything, she told Liam. He'll figure it out. Daniel chuckled softly. Yeah, I guess I will. Weeks turned into months. Liam didn't fully recover, but he wasn't completely gone anymore. There were small signs, tiny movements, changes in expression, moments that felt like he was trying to come back. And through it all, Sophia never stopped showing up. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light across the room, Daniel stood by the doorway, watching. Sophia was reading a story aloud, her voice soft and steady. And then the boy woke up, she read, glancing at Liam. Just like you will. Daniel felt something shift inside him. Not the sharp, desperate hope he'd clung to before, but something quieter, stronger. He stepped into the room. Sophia, he said. She looked up. Yes. Daniel hesitated, then spoke. Thank you, She smiled, simple and bright. I didn't do anything. Daniel shook his head. No, you did everything. He looked at Liam, and for the first time since the accident, he didn't feel like he was losing his son. He felt like, maybe, just maybe, he was finding his way back.